My name is Farhan Ahmad and I'm a lecturer at DHA Sufa University Karachi, and today we'll be discussing business communication. The topic today we have got is called Principles of Communication. We understand that there was a concept of 7 C's and now it is 9 C's. So we want to look at those principles of communication that can make our communication effective and efficient. Let's start with the principles of communication. So the very first principle of communication that we understand is called principles of completeness. So what is the principle of completeness and why do we utilize it? So for example, if I write a sentence here that Gary died. Now, Gary died, does it make sense? Is it a complete sentence to you, or is there anything missing in there? Most of the people might think that this is a complete information. However, if we go by the principle of completeness, which demands 5 W's and H, it's not complete. So let's try and complete it. So if I write Gary died on Monday, so you see I've covered one concept here of W, that is who. So 5 W's stand for who, when, where, why, what, and how. So we want to apply these principles on the sentence to make it a complete sentence. So we understand right now Gary died on Monday. That does not tell us the entire story. So we have covered Gary as who and Monday as when. But still the concept of where, why, when, how is left. Who, how is left. So Gary is who, Monday is when. Gary died on Monday at the clinic or at the university. Let's put down university. So Gary died on Monday at the university. University is where? Where did he die? Due to a heart attack. Due to a heart attack. Now we understand why did he die? Because of the heart attack. Now we have covered 4 of the W's here. Who, when, where, why. Now we want to cover what? Where did he die? We have covered where? Yeah, we have covered where, when, we have covered who. What has happened? Died. So we have also covered what here. So Gary has died on Monday at the university due to a heart attack. Now we have covered all the 5 W's here, but we have not covered H. So how do you want to incorporate H in this sentence? That's a task here. So what do you suggest? What should I put here? How should I cover this one so that it becomes a complete sentence? So what comes in your mind? It's a bit tricky, yeah? So let's try and put here Gary died on Monday at the university due to a heart attack while delivering a lecture. Now, if you look at the entire sentence, it has got all the elements, 5 W's and H. So H, how did he die? Why delivering a lecture. So he could have died while driving a car or something, but this is a prime example of sending a message that is a complete message, because in America every year about $4.5 billion are lost just because people fail to understand the emails, and the emails that are being exchanged might be just missing one of the key information, when to send the quote and what's the price of the quotation. All these things make it very difficult for the businesses to sort of like ensure that the communication is successful. So we understand the concept of completeness, that whenever we try and talk to each other, we want to make sure that we follow the principle of completeness. That's the very first principle. And the second principle is principle of concreteness. Now when we discuss things as a student, most of the time we are relying upon a very generic English. Our English is not upgraded English, it is just basic English. So we want to do away from our basic English and we want to utilize some upgraded English. For example, when I'm talking right now, I can say my business is good and it makes money and I am happy and I want to take my business to the next level. But if I was to talk like a manager, I would be utilizing the concrete terminologies, concrete words, some substantial sort of like vocab. For example, if I was to talk, I'm a manager and my business is trying to gain a competitive advantage over its competitors due to its ideal location. My strategy is effective enough and I'm pursuing the strategy of differentiation to take an edge over my competitors. So you see I'm utilizing the words like competitive advantage, strategy, taking an edge, my business has ideal location. All these are the words are called concrete words. They're the concrete terminologies that I'm utilizing to sound like a manager or to sound like more an educated person. So you want to make sure that whenever you're writing English, you're doing away from the basic vocabulary. So after completeness, we understand concreteness is the second principle. So the very first principle that I have looked at is what? Completeness. And comes next what? Correctness. So when we are sending information, we want to make sure that we send the correct information. So if I was to send you any information regarding your exam that I'll be conducting your exam next week, and if I give you a wrong time there, it will be a failure in terms of communication. And many a time it happens that when your results are published, sometimes your marks are mentioned as wrong marks. They are not the correct marks, and this way you struggle a lot and you have to sort of like repeat the entire process and you have to go and request everyone to rectify the mistake that has been made, and this gives a very unprofessional look to the client. So you want to make sure if it is a shopping done at at a shopping center where you have been misquoted a price and you have been overcharged, so all these things show that this is unprofessional behavior. So you want to do away from this thing. Apart from correctness, what we can discuss here is conciseness. So just take an example of the YouTube video. If you want to watch a video, you always go for the number there, the duration of the video. If it is too long, you might not be picking that video because it is too long. And sometimes when your friends send you a message over WhatsApp and this message is too lengthy messages, it's too wordy message, so what you do, you start calling them instead of going through the message. You prefer calling them because you want to save time. So conciseness again makes your communication more effective. So gone are the days where we used to rely upon longer videos, and you see there are YouTube shorts where people want to acquire the information quickly. So yes, you want to make sure that your communication is concise. You're not too wordy, like I'm right now reinforcing my words, I'm being repetitive just to make sure that you understand the concept. But if I was to write something about teaching you, I'll be more concise in my PowerPoint. I wouldn't be that wordy. So it's just because lecture demands that I have to sort of detail everything or explain everything. That's why I'm elaborating. So conciseness is the fourth principle. Comes clarity. So clarity is another principle that makes communication effective and efficient, and that is one of the bases for a successful communication. So clarity is power. We all know this thing, and I hope all of you get clarity in your lives. So clarity, for example, if I send you any schedule and I tell you that I'll be conducting your exam next week. Now this message is not clear that when next week will you be conducting it, what time will you be conducting, which exam will you be conducting, and what would be the mode of exam. Will it be online, will it be physical? This is where the clarity comes into play. Many a time people forget what clarity is, and they do not consider the element of clarity, due to which their communication process actually breaks down, it actually fails. So you want to make sure that there is an element of clarity in there. So we understand 5 principles so far. Now comes the principle of consideration. Why do we have consideration? Because we want to consider our audience before we speak. So just imagine if you're talking to your parents, you're very respectful because there's an element of consideration. You want to consider before you speak, that what kind of message is suitable for your parents. Similarly, when you are talking to the kids, you want to make sure that you consider your audience first before you open your mouth, because any wrong word can cause an offense, and that this is where the problem can come into play. So you want to make sure that you consider your audience, who you're talking to. If it is your boss, or it is your client, or it is your supplier, you want to make sure that you utilize the formal language that will do the job for you. So we understand consideration here is very important for communication to be viable. Okay, and then after consideration, we have courtesy. Apart from understanding consideration, that if you're talking to a kid, you'll be designing your message in a very simple way so that a kid can understand your message. But courtesy is about how do you deliver the message. So if we are talking about delivering the message, you're making a formal presentation and you come up in a sando and you're wearing a shorts, you're having a ring in your ear and you go, yo dude, what's up? I mean, that does not work in a formal environment. So you have to be courteous. You want to make sure that you utilize your thank you and your please, and you understand the entire ambience of that particular communication event when you're going to perform. So that's very important, and especially a phone call where you have met with an angry customer, and out of because just because he's angry, you become discourteous and you say some rude word to him, damn off or something, and you hang up on them. That's where the courtesy comes into play. So you have to be very tolerant, and you have to make sure that you do not lose your patience when you're talking to angry customer, or you are dealing with a complicated situation when it comes to communication. So that's very important. That was 7 C's back in the days that we used to think about: completeness, concreteness, correctness, conciseness, clarity, consideration, and courtesy. But nowadays, there are two more elements that have been added, two more principles have been added, and one of them is conversational tone. So conversational tone is very important. Apart from the accent, that if you go to London and you come up with the people speaking with such politeness, and they have got their own posh accent. Excuse my ignorance, would you have a couple of minutes, would you? So that's very posh British accent from London. Could you press the button for me, please? So that's totally different. But if you talk about the same accent, if you go towards northeast and the accent becomes too broad, yeah mate, sure, knee bother mate, knee bother. So that's where the accent changes. I'm totally knackered mate. So all these things show that yes, there is an accent, but conversational tone is the way you talk, the rise and fall of voices, the consideration of the people. So conversational tone is about what is your tone. Sometimes it can be very, sarcastic tone. Sometimes it can be very ironic tone. Sometimes you wanna use maybe innuendos, and depends on what kind of innuendos you wanna use. Maybe it's a sexual innuendos. So it does depend on this conversation, that if someone is trying to sort of like utilize double meaning, and they are using these innuendos, and so that's the conversational tone, that when you go, yeah, really. So all these kind of just come up with the conversational tone. And last comes what? Confidence. Confidence is another element that you wanna utilize in our communication. And out of all the 9 principles, which one do you think is the most effective and is the most important? Out of all these, some people go with clarity, some people go with completeness, but out of all these, confidence is the most important one. So even if you don't have the confidence, no one will know how good of a speaker you are. So if you are the best speaker in the world, you don't have the confidence to open your mouth, no one will know who you are. So confidence plays a very crucial role in making your communication process successful. So you want to make sure that you have got enormous confidence to deal with extraordinary situations where you might have to sort of like represent your company, where you might have to act like an ambassador, where you will come across situations where you have to take the initiative. And just take an example of simple CR of the class who is maybe wanting to escalate an issue to the teacher, but he or she is scared. So he or she gets the paper signed, a complaint signed with all the students, and just out of the fear or lack of confidence, that CR class representative is not wanting to confront the teacher or face the teacher, and he slips the paper underneath the door. That's a classic example of lack of confidence, where you don't want to face the subject, where you don't want to face your client or customer or supplier. So confidence is the one that will take you to the next level, and you want to make sure that you have enormous confidence to deal with the situations, unexpected situations that can come across, and you can be assigned a task to deal with that. So that's the 9 C's of communication that we have covered in the last class, and it was another lecture in the in the series of my short lecture, in the short lecture series that I have initiated. So I'll keep making lectures for you guys, and I hope it is helping. I'll see you in the next lecture with a new topic. Until then, thank you so much, guys.